Your boy Alex. Today's Thursday. Got some good news for you. Tomorrow, your pilot's eye drops. Tomorrow, you're not going to really get a YouTube video tomorrow because that's when all the gyms are supposed to open up. And I really want to get back to my cardio and weight training. And on my fitness channel, start the first episode of the fitness show, the Alexander Sports Fitness Show. So you won't be getting a video Friday. You won't be getting a video Saturday because I heard the gym's going to be opening up, the movie theater's going to be opening up, and I want to check out the place to see if it's okay to go back to or not to go back to. So in those days, don't be surprised if you actually don't get any videos until either Saturday afternoon, if you're lucky, or Sunday, you might get a video. It all depends on how the week out turns out. If it turns out good, you'll get another video. You're going to get a video, you're just not going to get one Friday or Saturday right away. The reason why we're doing a video today is because tomorrow I'm not going to do a video. Tomorrow I'm going to go crash at the gym and do my workouts. So this is part 2 in our comedy series. This one's going to be called Sex Game, the top 10 greatest comedians of all times. We're talking about the best of the best to be the greatest comedians of all times. I did part 1. That seems that it was well received. So now we're gonna pop out part 2. See how that critical reception turns out. All right, coming in at number 10 is Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd started off doing stand-up comic comedian for like almost 5 years. He graduated from high school and college, a bachelor's of fine art. Then he got into those sitcom television shows of the late 1990s and the early 2000s. And he was on this one show where he was just one of those guys that just happened to be funny. And then he got into the movies. Like, he got to be in movies like Knocked Up, the 40-year-old version. There was a sequel to the 40-year-old version. So he actually popped up in those movies. But where he really hit big was a movie called Ant-Man. I mean, the idea that you could be a superhero and do it in a funny, comical way was interesting because we already had guys being big and buff. We already had guys being intellectual with superpowers. Then we had monsters, we had gods, but what we did not have is we did not have a funny superhero, and he kind of became the embodiment of a funny superhero. I mean, there was Deadpool, but Ant-Man was also kind of breaking the fourth wall too. And the fact that his character got to be crucial to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is what made it more funny because you see him in Ant-Man, then you see him in Captain America Civil War, and then the fact that he got to actually come back and get a sequel, and then that sequel goes into Avengers Endgame, again, it made him like half of the big part of the story because of the fact that he was able to do it. And the jokes work for him. The jokes work. So he's at number 10 because he kind of gave birth to the funny superhero because you see there's him, there's Deadpool, you don't know what else they might come up with. So, congratulations, he's at number 10. Coming at number 9 is Rebel Wilson. Now, I had her on another list, but she's on this list for comedy. Now, ever since she popped up and did a movie called Ghost Rider, I've watched her career very closely. She popped up in Picture Perfect. She's been in all 3 movies. Then, of course, she appeared in This Is Not Romance. Then she appeared in Pain and Gain. And then she had her own television sitcom called Super Night Fun. It was a very short-lived television show, but she is funny as hell. I mean, she makes fun of herself. She doesn't care what you personally say or think about her. And that's what I like about her. And why is it kept closed? I do have a crush on her. And people going to say, man, but she big. She BBW. Well, everybody has a crush on a girl they like. I have some girls that are in athletic shape, and then I have some girls on this spectrum that I like. So it's to be fair and fairness. She's actually funny. And that's why her career has lasted long as it lasts. I think when it's all said and done, you have to consider her one of the greatest of all times. I mean, because she's just one of the few women to kind of come in and break the mold. Like, she's good at making fun of her own characters as well as playing other versions of herself. So she's learned how the game works. Coming in at number 8 is Monique. I said I was going to have Monique on this list, and we got Monique on this list. The reason why she goes on this list is because she had her own television show called The Parkers. That show was good because it got 5 seasons. And they made a spinoff of the television show where her daughter graduated college and got a job. So she actually got to have her own television show, and then there was a spinoff. And then the fact that she got into the movies, like getting an Oscar for playing the mother of Precious. She really, really proved that she can go from just doing comedy to being a serious dramatic actress. And she almost won a second Oscar. She won an Academy Award. And to me, if anyone could become like the second coming or the next person to be like Whoopi Goldberg, it would probably be Monique because Monique can bring it when it comes to her chopping ability. She got to be in Baby Boy. A lot of people did not expect her to be in Baby Boy. Like you expected someone else, but for her to pop up in a movie like that, and then to see her in Precious years later, that shows you how far she's come. So she can take adult situations and make fun of them, and then make it to where you could. And then she has her own TV talk show. So you have to have Monique on this list. Like it'd be a crime, a tragedy, not to have no Monique on this show. So you got to put her on here because she is one of the greats. She has earned it. Coming in at number 7 is Tina Fey. Now she's funny as hell. I mean, ever since I saw that movie called Sister, that is funny as hell. That one scene with her and John Cena, the fact that John Cena came in there looking like a drug dealer, all swole and buffed up. I got all the drugs. I got the uppers. I got the downers. I got the upper uppers. I got the downer downers. I got all type of stuff. And she had that smile on her face. You could imagine somebody that you went to high school and college with 20 years later do some shit like that. Like, you could just imagine it. Like, y'all can imagine it, can you? You can imagine that it's your high school reunion, it's 20 years later, and somebody wants to have a party, and they want to show all the popular kids that they know how to be cool and they know how to be fun. And it was like they took the idea of Superbad and the 40-year-old version and combined it, and what the hell do you get? You get Sisters. For her to be a producer, a writer, an actress, and to be on a television show, and then she pops up in those phone commercials, and then to make it even interesting, she actually is very physically, sexually attractive for her age. It's like, it's very rare for a person of her stature to be that talented and then to do all of that at once. And I'm pretty sure they might make a sequel if they were to make one. I mean, she's funny. I mean, she really, really is funny. And she don't just make herself look good. She makes all the people around her look good. So she knows how to keep her ego in check. A lot of people her stature don't do that. She does that. And she don't just work with anyone. She can work with any type of talent. And that's not the first time she worked alongside John Cena. She worked alongside him 4 years before that when she did a movie called Legendary. So she shows incredible acting range. Like, you need her to be goofy, she'll play goofy. You want her to be serious, she'll play serious. You want her to do a little bit of both, she can actually do it. And what is funny is that nobody really gives her the credit until she did that movie. But she had done other movies that were just as funny as Sister, but it wasn't until she did Sister that people really saw her. Okay, let's give her the credit she does. She should have been got it. That's my honest opinion. Coming in at number 6 and tie is Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey. I love me some Adam Sandler. I mean, back in the 90s, he was the man. He was the shit. I mean, you could not watch a movie without Adam Sandler in it. You look at movies like Happy Gilmore, one of my favorite movies of all times. That shit was funny as hell. You got Carl's Weather in it. You got Rob Schneider. You got Bob Barker in here. I mean, that movie was funny. Then you got Billy Madison, where he wants to go back to high school to prove to his parents that he deserves to win the family inheritance. You know, Angry Management. Those were some good Adam Sandler movies. Then he tried to, his hand at action movies. Action movies weren't that good, but he did try them. He had this period where for almost 7 or 8 years, he was the man. Like, he was the guy, the next guy that you expect to take the torch from the legends and run with it. I mean, then his movie started to fall apart. Then he was in a movie called The Longest Yard, where he tried to rebound his acting career, and then his career took another big hit. And you feel bad for him now because all the new guys that have come up have managed to they've managed to surpass him. Now he did a movie called Grown Ups. There was Grown Ups 2. So he still has it where he still can make you laugh. He's still entertaining. Like he's one of the coolest guys that you'll ever meet. You know, he even played another action hero that got spawned off into a sequel. So, you know, I think it's called Vandar. I can't even say the name right, but he played a movie where his character comes from the Middle East and he's like a secret agent. And then he didn't want to be a secret agent no more, so he wanted to retire. And then the people found out where he was at. I forgot the name of the movie, but it did get a sequel, and he did come back and play in that franchise. So he's got range. I mean, he's another guy that should be looked upon as one of the greats. You know, he's making that comeback. On the other hand, it's Jim Carrey. Now, Jim Carrey was one of these guys that tried to get on Saturday Night Live not once, not twice, almost four attempts to try to get on Saturday Night Live. He would get on the show much later in his career, but he was on a show called Living Color. And the fact that he played five different characters on one show was unheard of. I mean, he was doing the genie from Aladdin before they even made a movie called The Genie. He was already doing Ace Peck Detective before they even thought about making it into a movie. And then Saturday Night Live actually stole Jim Carrey away from Living Color. Like he was on Living Color for like almost 3 years, and then from out of nowhere they just bring him up to Saturday Night Live. It's well documented. It's not a secret. And he ended up doing those same personalities on that show. And then he kind of got onto the same level as an Eddie Murphy. And then they saw some potential in him. And then he found himself in a movie called Ace Peck Detective, which led three movies, a cartoon, and a television show, a comic book. And then he really hit it big in his career with The Mask. Like he actually got to be in The Mask, where he actually got to play another superhero personality. There was Ace Peck Detective, and then there was The Mask. Two franchises at the same time, in the prime of his career. And then, of course, he did Cable Guy, which span off into another franchise. He didn't come back for the sequel, which sucked. But that was three franchises. Then he does some voiceover cartoons, and then his career takes a big hit. I don't know why, you know, but it does take a big hit. You know, some of the movies start to flop. And then he ends up in a movie called Kick-Ass 2, which kind of gave a resurgence to his acting career. And then he pops up in Sonic the Hedgehog as the main villain. I can't wait to see him come back in the sequel. And he showed that he still has his timing, that charisma, that energy that he brings with all his damn characters. So why is it kept closed? I probably would tell him, "Come on, Jim Carrey, give me an Ace Peck Detective Part 4. I know you're itching for another Part 4 or a callback to The Mask. Like any one of those, bring Jim Carrey back to it, please." All right, coming in at number five is Chris Rock. You cannot do a list without no Chris Rock. Chris Rock, when he showed up in Lethal Weapon 4, that was like the best part of the movie because you needed someone to play off of Joe Pesci. And Chris Rock did it with such style. You know, they argued with the cell phone. You know, they was arguing about who's a private detective, who's not a cop. You know, it was actually hilarious. And the fact that he made the fourth movie so funny is that they added a third cop to the scene. That was actually the best thing you could have done for the Lethal Weapon franchise. The only thing that I wish they could have done with his character is it could have made a Lethal Weapon spinoff where you could have made it where he gets to be the guy in the next movie to kind of take over while those guys go on vacation. The things they could have done with his character, there was potential and growth. Of course, he did a documentary called Good Hair. Then he did his own television show. And then the fact that he becomes a producer, a writer, and a director. And he's supposed to be in this spinoff, which is supposed to be a Saw continuation of the Saw series, where he's going to become this serious dramatic actor. And it's been a while since Lethal Weapon 4 that he has done that. He's hosted the Oscars, the Academy Award, the Golden Globe, and he's been in commercials. So, and then of course there's my favorite one with Chris Rock in it. I Think I Love My Wife, which I think that was by far his best movie performance, hands down. I don't think anybody can argue with that. Yes, he has been in movies with the legendary great Eddie Murphy. He's been in multiple movies with Eddie Murphy. Beverly Hills Cop 2, Boomerang. He done at least 2 or 3 films, and then of course New Jack City. So he's been in those movies. Plus, my younger brother looks just like Chris Rock, so I know he'll get a kick out of that. All right, coming in at number 4 is Chris Farley, tied with Robert Williams. They're both legends. They're both icons in this business. They both broke in around the same time. Chris Farley was the fat, funny guy that everybody was laughing with. And this is like a tragedy. I mean, seriously, this is a tragedy. He went from everyone laughing with him to everyone laughing at him. And there's a big, big, major difference between laughing with someone and then laughing at them. And when he did movies like Beverly Hills Ninja, and then he had popped up in Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, he would pop up in those movies. And then he got his own movies. And basically, he wanted to meet his idol because his idol was a comedian. If you've seen the Bruce Brothers movies, he wanted to be just like John Belushi. It's well documented that was his idol. His idol passed away at 33, and unfortunately, Chris Farley passed away at 33. The temptation, the sex, the drugs, and to see him in the prime of his career, he went from being on Saturday Night Live to being on the same level as Jim Carrey and Eddie Murphy. And at one point, he was going to surpass all of these people, but he hit a glass ceiling because he suffered from depression. There was the cocaine addiction, and he just weren't the same person. I mean, he visited Saturday Night Live, and he kind of opened the door for anyone to come in. And like before, we had Deadpool, right? If you just imagine if he was alive today, he probably would have been in those Deadpool movies because if anybody was breaking the fourth wall, it was actually Chris Farley. He was doing things on Saturday Night Live that comedians could not do on all those shows. He was making fun of Mad TV, which started the Mad TV versus Saturday Night Live war. He was with Patrick Swayze and he was doing that funny dance. Yeah, he got to be in those movies, and then he did comedy sketches, and he kind of opened the door for today's comedians to be able to say, over the top stuff. The stuff he was saying, you probably might find yourself in jail today because the way he was talking, it wouldn't be accepted today. On the other hand, we have another legend, and that's Robert Williams, famous for playing the genie in the animated interpretation of Aladdin. Nobody, and I mean nobody, comes close to imitating the genie like Robert Williams. God rest his soul, rest in peace. This guy was so talented, I don't think people realized it until 20 years into his career. And it's sad when it takes 20 years for someone to recognize your talents. I mean, the guy was really good. I mean, he got to be in those 3 animated movies. They made Aladdin, the animated series. He came back. So he got to be in the animated movies, the animated series. Then the genie got his own spinoff. He came back and voiced that. And then he got to be in a movie called Mrs. Doubtfire, which was by far his best movie. Then he hooks up with Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, does a movie called Good Will Hunting, does another movie with Robert De Niro, and shows huge acting range. Then he plays a villain in one of these crime dramas. I mean, the guy just got talent like nobody's business. Now, it's a tragedy and it's a shame what happened afterwards. I don't like to talk about it because that was one of my favorite comedians. Like, he could take a real life situation that was bothering you and try to make some good light out of the comedy. Like, if you got rejected 15 times or 100 times, he could actually play off of that and make light of it and make you feel good about getting rejected by women. That's how good he was. Robert Williams made you forget that you had a bad day, that you forgot that you even got rejected. That's how good he was. It's just unfortunate that it took 20 years for people to recognize the talent. He was on a television show, and then he did this one movie where he was a robot for 200 years, and he would go back and forth between being human and being a robot. He did a bunch of movies. He even got to be in a movie called Toys, which was a very good movie. He got to be a voice of commercials. The guy was really good. It's just unfortunate that when some of these newer guys came into the game, he mentored these people. It didn't matter to him if you were white, black, Mexican, Latino. He would mentor these people and get them to do their craft, not just I want to be rich and famous. I mean, he was there when he saw Chris Farley self-destruct. He was there when he was there for all of that. So people forget that that's why these guys are on the same level. So that's why they're being put here. So they're both legends and icons. Coming in at number 3 is Whoopi Goldberg.